earlier this year in March 2021. Since we have not met last year, you know that last year was a very difficult one. It's one since the eruption of COVID-19 and the declaration of it as a pandemic in March 2021. This department has been tirelessly working together with African countries, with African organizations, but also with our partners to ensure, on the one hand, of course, the health and well-being of our people, but also to find a way to help our economies and economic activities to resume as fast as possible, but also to set a way forward for recovery post-COVID. The way we have been looking at this crisis, global crisis, is as much as it is a huge challenge for the whole world, for us in Africa could also be an incredible opportunity to rethink our development paths, to rethink our development projects, to use technology and particularly digitalization in rethinking the way we are doing business in all sectors. And that's exactly what we have been applying since March 2021. March 2020. So the first thing we were very much concerned with is the opening or reopening of the borders. So resuming transport, especially for landlocked countries. We have, as you know, 16 landlocked countries in Africa, to make sure that the borders are reopen. And we adopted PCR tests as a way to enable or to help with the contain and prevent the spread of the virus. It was adopted as means of verification of at the borders. We also formed an African aviation task force that includes our Agency for Civil Aviation, AFCAC, our African Association for African Airlines, AFRA, the African Development Bank. We linked up with ICAO, the International Organization for Civil Aviation, and IATA to support the African airlines during a very, very difficult year, and by the way, it still persists, in resuming transport, which was essential in the early months of the pandemic to transport medical equipment, medical supplies, food, and other things in emergency, in an urgent manner to our countries, so that which we succeeded to do in July 2020. Since then, our airlines continue to face a major challenge. And we are still working and advocating with across the globe for a smoother or to easing up of the restrictions, to allow better mobility and more mobility, on the one hand across the continent, but also with the outside world, knowing that the fact that the restrictions are not harmonized, or that health requirements and credentials are not harmonized across the continent, harm or affect the mobility severely. And in that, we are working closely with the Africa CDC, with the WHO, and with IATA and others. So it is important to note that we are working to harmonize the health requirements for entry into countries, working also to digitalize, to have a harmonized digital health credentials adopted and approved by all African countries, and this is what we're doing through the CDC. And through the CDC, of course, they have established the Trusted Travel platform to help also travelers across the continent and abroad have a one-stop shop, a digital means to verify whatever health credential is being presented. Now, having said that, and despite this serious situation our air transport and our airlines are facing, I am very happy to report that to date, we have 35 African countries who have joined the Single African Air Transport Market. And that we at the African Union, despite this difficult situation, we were able to finalize most, if not all, the tests pertaining to the SATAM. And the only one left now that we are about to finalize is the dispute resolution text, which is, again, as I said, it's an excellent achievement given how difficult the situation is for our airlines. But it again shows African solidarity and our wish to use the challenge of the pandemic to push for more integration, especially in transport and here in air transport across the continent, to also help with the other flagship projects, namely or particularly the African free trade area. And we also requested, our ministers also issued a clear recommendation for our governments to reduce taxes on air transport as a way to encourage people to take airlines, to use aviation more often, and to help with the recovery of our air transport. The second challenge under the COVID-19, and it's a structural challenge also in Africa, is access to electricity. As you know, the majority or more than half of the population of Africa has no access to electricity. What COVID-19 revealed is only 25% of health centers in sub-Saharan Africa have access to reliable sources of energy, which is very, very serious. So only 25% of health centers in sub-Saharan Africa have access to reliable sources of energy. Moreover, as you know nowadays that we are rolling out vaccination and vaccines, we urgently need energy for cooling to keep the vaccine vials, to keep the validity of the vaccines. So not only we don't have access, more than half of the population do not have access to energy, most of the energy programs have slowed down under COVID last year. The health centers suffer from lack of reliable energy. We need energy for cooling. We also need energy for clean cooking because it's again a structural problem in Africa. So we repackaged and rethought our plans and made sure that innovative solutions such as mini grids, off grids, be rolled out in rural and remote areas so as to help with the situation of and also to make sure that economic centers such as health centers, water pumps and others have also these facilities to ensure they are well powered. And in that regard, renewable energy, of course, is a major advantage, because it is readily available almost everywhere and in abundance in our continent. The other thing is that we are insisting also, we launched last June the African Single Electricity Market, which is going to be the largest single electricity market in the world. And already many of the texts and the regulations organizing this market have been developed and will continue. This is a major endeavor under the African Union. The third axis on which we based our action is digitalization and acceleration of digitalization, everything, especially all sectors. If you recall, last year, 2020, the heads of states and government adopted our African digital transformation strategy. What we did since March 2020 and to date is that we are developing the policy for an African policy and framework for e-agriculture, e-health, e-education, a framework for data, a framework for digital ID, and another one that also looks into the privacy and cybersecurity issue. Why we are doing this? Because I'm sure you did realize that when that being online is almost a lifeline. This is how we get the information. This is how our children are now learning, not just playing, but learning. This is how we can get health services. This is how we can buy and using e-commerce, and I'm sure everyone has been trying to do that under COVID, order food, order things online for those, of course, who have access to networks and internet and have the skills. And in parallel with that, we are accelerating our regional programs for connectivity, digital connectivity under the PIDA program, and I will get to that. The second very relevant issue that we are living, I think, these days, or where there is lots of noise these days, is COP26. We are only 2 weeks away from the COP26, and the issue of a climate agenda is very much discussed each and every day. Please know that Africa has already, for years now, been developing large programs for renewable energy across the continent, aiming at, on the one hand, of course, generating clean energy, but also improving the energy mix that we are having, meaning that we are determined to use the energy sources that we are having, especially natural gas, in addition to renewable energy, because gas is the cleanest of fossil fuel, and it can help with the clean energy agenda. It can. We are also trying to use it or pushing for its use as a cleaner fuel for our cars and public transportations, and that, of course, added, as I said, to our large renewable energy projects. We also have a large program for energy efficiency, meaning the energy that we already have, to use it the best way possible in order to benefit from all of it, because as we speak, almost 30% of the energy being generated as we speak is lost, either because the transmission lines are old, or we are using machines or equipments that are not energy saving or energy efficient. So we are putting lots of emphasis also on the energy efficiency aspect. So on the one hand, improve what we already installed as energy, expand in terms of energy using renewable, but also gas, natural gas, as being the cleanest of fossil fuel, and other activities such as a new system for data gathering and data system for energy efficiency across Africa, something that is our Commission Africa is working on. For transport and mobility, I'm happy to also say that in addition to the reopening of the borders, we have been very active in terms of road safety. And I'm saying road safety because our continent, and please retain that, has the highest number of fatalities in the world due to road accidents, the highest rate in the world. What happened under lockdown is that, as I said, there is sometimes, a blessing even that comes in the form of a pandemic. Due to the lockdowns, the number of fatalities, of course, dropped down seriously, which was a good thing. So we are trying to push our member states to rethink the roads, to rethink the safety issues related to traffic, making sure that our roads are more user-friendly, making sure and banning second-hand or import of old cars that do not have safety measures, making sure that the cars that are being imported also follow the rules regarding the emissions, so as to also reduce the pollution, because our cities we are suffocating, from bad emissions in many of the cities due to these old cars and inefficient in terms of use. And we are joining in that. We are joining the United Nations also in launching safer helmets for motorbikes. Because they are now being spread, people are using motorbikes more often, so we want to make sure that, again, they are well protected, and these helmets are much, much, much cheaper and more efficient than anything that is in the market, and they are homologated or approved by the United Nations, and you will hear from us about that in the coming weeks. Now, a major achievement in 2021 was the adoption of our program for infrastructure development in Africa, second phase, so which goes from the year 2021 to 2030. And that's a major achievement because this is the largest program for infrastructure in Africa that in the sectors of transport, of energy, of ICT, of water, and did I forget anything? Energy, transport, water, and ICT, so that's correct. Now, we adopted, unlike the previous ones, we chose the best and readiest projects on the continent, and we have adopted 69 regional infrastructure projects across all, and they are equally distributed in all regions of the continent. They are also equally distributed among the different sectors, and we have an estimate cost for these projects of about $16 billion a year in order to implement them. And due to this very high cost, we also developed, and it was adopted last July, together with the African Development Bank and Auda Nepad and others, a resources mobilization strategy in order to help us raise the necessary funding and finance for this ambitious and very well conceived program, which would help us modernize 2,100 kilometers of rail, 3,200 kilometers of roads and highways, construction of 7,500 kilometers of new roads and rails, bridges, one-stop borders, as I said, ICT, connectivity, generation of power supplies, and so on and so forth. You can read about that in our briefing. In short, The PIDA program was approved. We are very much on track. Resources mobilization has already started. We have 2 major events already this year in order to promote the 69 projects. One of them is Expo, Dubai Expo Fair, and others more sector-focused events that we are planning for the rest of the year. And going to COP26, we shall advocate for Africa's use of renewable energy and natural gas in order to ensure access to all our people, but also to improve the energy mix in the continent and to ensure that our cities are cleaner, safer, and that our people also enjoy a good well-being, but also that we do industrialize and do use power in ways that can help our economies grow and fast. And I thank you.
Thank you very much. That was Her Excellency Dr. Abu Zaid Amani, and she's the Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy. So now we are at the point where we take your questions. If anyone has a question, please raise your hand, and then you may then tell us your name and the agency that you are representing. Okay, it looks like we
No
don't
questions,
have any
so that's fine.
questions.
Thank you
Yes, ma'am.
all
I think
so
you
very
covered
much.
Everything so comprehensively.
Thank you, my
Thank
sister.
you. Thank you so much, colleagues, for attending this press briefing. Thank you.